Welcome back in, everybody, to a Football Friday edition of Birds 365. Joined now by Ed Kracz from SI.com. Ed, welcome to the show, man. How you doing on this Football Friday?
Hey, happy Football Friday, fellas.
What's up, bud? Yeah, we got another day at the NovaCare complex coming up. Excuse me. Losing my voice like Jalen Hurts, but you kind of heard me before the break. I'm starting to worry about these Georgia guys, Ed Kracz.
Can't blame you.
Dining and dashing, not only on the field, but they don't want to account for their play on the field by talking about it off the field. You see that? What's that about?
Yeah, I thought you made a good point. I was listening a little earlier, and Fletcher Cox was out there talking. You see him in the locker room. I haven't seen Jordan Davis in the locker room since the season started, to be honest. I don't know where he's been. Everybody talked about, not everybody, but his teammates on the defensive line said that he's kind of the leader. This is his third year. And if you're going to be a leader, you have to be front and center. You have to come out and you have to be seen. You have to be present. Doesn't mean you have to talk to the media every single day. But it'd be nice to at least see you walking through the locker room. I don't think we've seen Davis at all. Maybe I missed him, John. I don't know if you've seen him.
No, I haven't seen him. He's hard to miss now.
Didn't see him after the game in the locker room on Monday. He wasn't there. But a lot of guys weren't. Dallas Goedert, as soon as that locker room door opened Monday night for the reporters to go in, Dallas Goedert was already walking out. He was, walking past reporters as they were on their way in. He was dressed, showered, and out the door. But, it's not even so much the locker room presence and the out front stuff. It's the production. I mean, these guys haven't done anything. I mean, Jalen Carter's got four tackles, and he's played 75% of the snaps in both games. So, when's he going to show up? The Eagles are getting gashed in the run game, and that's supposed to be where Jordan Davis – that's his strength, is stopping the run, and they're getting killed on the ground. So, he's not getting his job done either. And of course, Nolan Smith, I mean, who knows, 17 snaps against the Falcons. The Eagles talked in the offseason about wanting to get him more involved, and 17 snaps isn't getting him more involved. It's fewer than he took against the Packers. And he doesn't do anything when he's out there. You don't see him making any plays. You don't see him putting any pressure on the quarterback, and that's supposed to be his job. So
Bijan Robinson saw him, Ed.
What's that?
I said Bijan Robinson saw him out there.
Yeah, he did.
That big chip block put Nolan on his ass. But
not a good look.
I mean, if you're Vic Fangio, I mean, Vic was talking yesterday, all the coordinators were, they can't stop the run. They can't rush the passer. They can't tackle. And he went the Andy Reid route that he's got to do a better job. I get it, but I think it's the players.
Yeah, I agree. And, he was asked about the youth of the defense, if that was a reason. He didn't think so. But then he said at the end of the answer that, maybe it is. I mean, they are a young defense. It's not an excuse. I mean, you can still be better than what we've shown so far as a young player. But Fangio made a good point when he said, listen, we're not getting the pass rush opportunities because we're not stopping the run. They're playing ahead of the sticks. So that gives an offense the ability to keep the Eagles defense off balance. They're using play action against them because they don't know if they're going to run or pass because they're running the ball so well. And that's what the Saints are going to do. So good luck stopping them down there in New Orleans this week.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, we've been on a 3-year run here, probably of everybody in the city, fans, media, everybody anointing Howie as the best GM in football, and I think it's rightfully so. But if these Georgia boys don't play, there's a lot of this defense's draft picks and high draft picks. If they can't step up eventually, I think it's too early this year to write them all off, but I think Howie's going to have a problem on his hands in terms of everybody starting to put him back in the bullseye because Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, even Bryce Huff now, add him to the mix, Nakobe Dean. None of them look good right now. None of them look like they're going to be viable players to build a good defense. I think Jalen Carter will turn it around. I think he's got the talent, but I do think it's going to be something Howie's going to have to get ready for if these guys don't step up here soon.
Yeah, the Kobe Dean was a third-round pick. It really slipped. And at that point in the draft, it was a no-brainer to kind of pick him in the third round and, number 80-something overall. That made sense. based on what the scouting report said about him coming into the draft. But again, Carter, he had the issue, the hiccup, as Fangio referred to it last week, by not showing up for a team meeting, or he was late for a team meeting, I should say. And, he didn't play the first series as his punishment. But yeah.
Ironically, that's very college-like. I get a very college-y-like feel with the Georgia guys.
Yeah, and they're young guys. I mean, well, Davis, I think, is 25 or maybe 24, but these are young guys, and Fletcher Cox was very important in that locker room and keeping them kind of in line and checking in on them every single day to make sure they were doing the right things. And he's not a babysitter this year. He's not going to check on them every single day. They have to take accountability for what they're doing, and it'd be nice to see them play better. That's for sure. And Zander, you're right with Howie. I mean, if he can't draft defense, it seems. I mean, he struggles to find good defensive players. He found Josh Sweat in the 4th round back in 2018, and Sweat was a player for a number of years. And, where's he been? He's another guy you don't see.
He had 5 hurries. He got 5 hurries.
He's the only one I think that's actually showed something. It hasn't been much. There's not much to show for it on the stat sheet, but I do think at least he's shown something this year versus Bryce Huff. I mean, you put the tape on Bryce Huff. It's not pretty, Ed. I mean, Jimmy Kempski wrote he was unplayable. I think that was a stretch for 2 weeks. But look, that's what the tape shows right now. It's not good on the rest of that defense. And as John points out, Jalen Carter included, and he's the one that's probably the most important when you talk about a guy we're building this defense on. And the weird part about Jalen Carter to me is he obviously has the talent. It's not a talent issue with Jalen Carter. What is it that's going to get him to rise up and play to his potential? If he's having these immaturity issues, if he's acting like a college guy, what's it going to take if it's not an old school coordinator like Vic Fangio? It didn't work last year with this. What's it going to take for him to ultimately play up to his potential? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and Clint Hurt, the defensive line coach, he has to play a role in this as well. He's the new guy also on that defensive staff, so he's got to find a way to get to light that fire. I mean, Carter had 6 sacks last year, which is pretty good for a rookie defensive tackle. I don't know if he hits that number. The way he's playing right now, who knows if he even gets 6 sacks. But again, it's Clint Hurt has to do his disaster. By the way, it would be a disaster. He was a guy that I thought might be able to get the double digits and lead this team in sacks. I don't think there's a double-digit sack player on this team. Maybe Brandon Graham leads him. Brandon Graham did have a sack. He would have been a defensive.
Got wiped out though with a penalty
on a Kobe Dean holding penalty.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I just think it's a mess right now, and I don't think New Orleans is a good cure for what's ailing this defense. Not the way the Saints are playing in their home stadium. It's just a big ask for the Eagles to get down there and win this game.
Well, to the point about Howie, I mean, I think everybody looked at, you get Jalen Carter and you get Nolan Smith and you get Jordan Davis and the Kobe Dean and throw Kaylee Ringo in there. And you got all these Georgia guys, the Philadelphia Bulldogs, and they're all comfortable because they got friends. Maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe that's a bad thing.
Well, they
don't need to be Philadelphia Bulldogs. They need to be Philadelphia Eagles and professionals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Fletcher Cox is a true professional.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He really was. And, he learned from guys, before him, like Trent Cole and some other players that were on the team then. And, he tried to pass those lessons down. But, I don't know if it's just because you have too many Georgia guys. I don't know if they're being coached properly. I just their motivation. I don't know. Have they played too much football? I mean, you come from a big school like that, you play a lot of football, or you
didn't even play that many snaps in college because the defense was so damn good that they could rotate everybody out to the next guy and you wouldn't have a drop off.
Yeah, good point. It's I mean, listen, they had a lot of success going to the Alabama players, Devontae Smith and Landon Dickerson, a couple of years ago went 1-2 for the Eagles, and they're foundation pieces, no doubt. But they just haven't been able to unlock these Georgia guys. And listen, even in the draft, when you get Jalen Carter at 9, nobody disagreed that was a bad pick. I don't think. I mean, okay, you question his maturity. He had the red flag, but the talent level was there. Nolan Smith, a lot of people projected him as a top 10, top 15 pick. He fell to number 30. Again, probably a no-brainer for the Eagles to take him based on that. So, I mean, these guys, it's not like they overreached on the talent level of these players. It's just that now they're not living up to it. But it's hard to fault Howie for picking these guys because they were really good, legitimate prospects, and they just haven't lived up to that potential.
Yeah, I do wonder if there's some element of, it's the old adage, don't draft the helmet, right? Don't draft the helmet, draft the player. I mean, look at Quinyon Mitchell. That's a guy. Now, he's early, but that's a guy that looks like he's commitment. He's got heart. He's got desire. He wants to be on the football field, and he's got, he's going to have his problems. He's a rookie. But
what Toledo football is known for.
Well, I just think, it's classic that everybody says, don't draft the helmet. And you do see why.
That is true.
And I wonder if Howie kind of fell into that trap of,
but I think that's I think to Ted's point, I mean, they were all legit prospects, every single one.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, they were.
And then it becomes, but I think a lot of people think you draft a player and then you either get a good player or a bad player. There's a lot of development that comes after it that turns that player into what he's going to be. And that's where the Eagles are failing. Now, why are they failing? Maybe it's coaching. Maybe it's upheaval. Sean Desai, Matt Patricia. Jalen Carter's only been here. He's already got 3 defensive coordinators. Now you got Vic Fangio. They're all one's a soft-spoken teacher. The other's like, I don't care what you think. Upheaval on defensive line coach. You go from Tracy Rocker to Clint Hurd. Maybe that's it. The development hasn't been there.
I mean, how much development do you need as a defensive tackle, though? I mean, listen, it's just mano a mano. You line up and
there's a lot of handwork. If you watch
technique, footwork, I get it.
If you watch the Fletcher Coxes of the world, and there's a big difference. And Chris Jones is a guy I pay a lot of attention to. I mean, those guys are different. They got everything, all their P's and Q's. Aaron Donald's, one of the great defensive players of all time. And it is talent driven, of course, because all those guys have tremendous talent. But they have something different that Jalen Carter hasn't unlocked yet, because he's got, except for Donald, he's got more talent than anybody, more physical gifts. And you might even argue, because he's a lot bigger than Aaron Donald, you add the power to strength and with the speed, you might even argue from a trait standpoint he's more well-rounded, but something's missing. So what's missing? Is it work ethic? Is it maturity? Is it technique? Is it fundamentals?
Motivation.
Something's missing that doesn't involve talent.
Motivation maybe. It's something on the inside. Yeah, something inside him, I think. And listen, it's only two games in. Carter played well the first 8 or 9 games last year and then kind of tailed off. And, we haven't seen him pick it back up to that level he played at early in his rookie season. So, I'm not writing the guy off. It is a concern.
No, I'm not writing him off. I expect him to play well at a certain point, but it's disappointing that, it's disappointing, but he is a very young player. I'm not even giving up on Nolan Smith. I mean, many people have closed the book on him.
You can't give up on him. No, you can't. I mean, you can't give up on them. They're still early in their career. They're still very young, early 20s. You just have to be patient with them and go through these growing pains and hope it clicks at some point. I don't know. You mentioned Chris Jones. They line him up all over the place in Kansas City, right? Doesn't he come from the outside?
They did with Aaron Donald. I mean, I'm not comparing Jalen Carter to Aaron Donald, but maybe they should move Jalen Carter around a little more.
I think they should. I think, we saw some of it in training camp. I would. I mean, the guy's quick. He's got a good first step. You put him out there one-on-one against the tackle, maybe he can beat somebody out there. And, that allows you to get another D tackle on the field. I like the way Thomas Booker played against the Falcons. He only got 9 snaps, but he made 3 tackles. It seemed like he hustled on every snap that he was out there. Even Moro Ojomo, maybe you increase his snaps if you put Carter on the outside occasionally. It's something I would try if I was Vic Fangio, and we saw him do it in training camp. I don't know why the hesitation to put him out there for maybe 5 snaps and see what he can do.
Yeah, I'd look at the defense and I go, well, they don't stop the run, they can't rush the passer, they can't tackle. Where do you start?
Well, that's a defense's job. All three of those things are what a defense is paid to do, and if you can't do them, then you don't have a defense.
So I mean, obviously Bickton turned into a bad coach. But I do think there were a lot of people that said, "Oh, Vic's here, everything will be fine." There's more to it than that, but there are little signs in the third down defense and the red zone defense, top 5 in the NFL, which is weird. It's like, all right, you're terrible at everything, but then on third downs, you're pretty good. And then when you get in the red zone, you're pretty good compared to the rest of the league. So maybe that's where the optimism should come from as guys get to learn this scheme is his way of doing it a little bit better.
Yeah, something to build on for sure. Something that, gives a little glimmer of hope, and then you start working on the other things. And, I thought that this would be a work in progress coming in, this defense. I thought it would take some time. And I've said that probably on this show a few times, that it's going to be on the offense to outscore the other team early. Because the defense is going to take some time to gel. And I think we're seeing that. And again, it's a small sample size. I mean, if New Orleans is going to be tough, I'm telling you, to go into that environment.
Oh yeah, Alvin Kamara's licking his chops right now, Ed.
Yeah, Derek Carr, that whole unit on the offensive side of the football is licking its chops, and you're playing in a hostile environment. I've been in the Superdome before.
Very really difficult place to play.
It is loud. You really, there's probably going to be some false starts, some pre-snap stuff because it's hard to hear in there. And this is a team that the city's fired up about. They're 2-0. So they're going to turn out
averaging 45 points a game.
Yeah. It's just not a good place for the Eagles to get better. But again, like I said, the defense to me was always going to be a work in progress. And you hope by the end of October, they were all on the same page. They were clicking, playing better. But until then, the offense needs to figure out a way to score more than 21 points like they did against the Falcons.
Yeah, well, let's go there real quick, Ed, because, I do think that that's something that really I'm guilty of as well. But a lot of the times this city loves to blame the defense. And even if going back to last year, everybody was, the defense collapsed. Well, the Eagles got into the playoffs, right? At the end of the day in the NFL, all you can ask for is to get into the playoffs. It's new life. You have a chance. The offense scored 9 points in the playoff game. Last week, they scored 21 points. Like, at what point are we going to say, well, the offense has to play great?
What is the common denominator to that, by the way?
No AJ.
Yes.
Yeah.
What the hell? Now, AJ's a great player. I think we all know that. I say it all the time. Both Ed and I do our top 25 pure Eagles football players every year at si.com/NFL/Eagles. You can check it out there. We both picked, and we don't look at each other's list. We do it independently. We both picked A.J. Brown number 1, and I think deservedly so. Best pure football player on the Eagles.
Yeah.
You got to do a better job of persevering. I saw the Kansas City Chiefs lose Tyreek Hill and win Super Bowls. They went about it a different way. They won Super Bowls. Last year, the Vikings lost Justin Jefferson for a stretch, and all of a sudden here comes Jordan Addison, and they persevere. You can't replace players like that, but they persevere. This team falls apart offensively when A.J. Brown's not on the field. Why? They got to do a better job than that, Ed Kracz.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe that stems from Nick's philosophy is, hey, this offense runs through Smith and Brown and Goddard and now Barkley. I mean, I think you need to be a little more diverse. Like, they don't, when AJ's out there, okay, I get it. You go to him a lot, but I think you still need to get other pieces involved, like a Britton Covey, throw him the ball twice a game, or Saquon Barkley.
He got 6 touches. He was 6 for 6, Britton Covey, by the way.
For like 20 yards. But I mean, I'm talking about when Brown's healthy, is you need to kind of develop other parts of this offense than just Brown and Smith. And even Goddard has taken a back seat.
Well, you mentioned, I think he's getting pissed.
Well, I asked him, I mentioned at the start of the show how he was the first one out of the locker room. And I asked him, I said, listen, you always say that you're happy with whatever touches you get as long as the team is winning. Now you lost and you only had 4 targets and 3 catches, and you were the first one out of the locker room. Were you frustrated? And he said, no, he was in a hurry because he wanted to watch the game tape. He was in a hurry to go watch the tape after the game. So, I don't listen.
I'm sure that's what Dallas Goedert went and did.
Yeah.
By the way, that's the kind of I was there when Ed asked that question, and that's a good, tough question. That the kind of thing that, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter don't want to answer right now. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
Yeah. And Goddard will sit
Dallas
there
sat there and did it and is a leader and is a pro. And yeah, he fended it off. Probably wasn't honest, but that's part of the gig, man.
Yeah.
It's part of being a professional.
And Dallas is a guy that's been here for 6 years. So he knows us. I know Dallas. I felt comfortable asking him the question in that scenario. And, we don't know Carter and Davis because they rarely talk to us. But, we'll still ask the hard questions. And then, hope you don't get hit. But but I'll tell you who I'm impressed with, Saquon Barkley, man.
Saquon, yeah.
He'll talk every single day for as many minutes as you need him to talk. I mean, and it's so refreshing to have a running back like that. I mean, remember Miles Sanders, who he doesn't talk until Friday, whatever it was. DeAndre Swift, you couldn't, he was always out the door as quickly as he could.
Miles banned me from his life because I pointed out his knee brace.
Yeah.
Banned me for life.
Yeah.
Was very, very nice to me and then banned me for life because I pointed out that he was hurt.
Yeah, with the brace. But, it's nice to see a guy like Barkley. And again, right after the game, when the locker room opened, we saw Jalen Hurts. He was at his locker. They were talking kind of in hushed tones. And, Jalen's not going to say what he told him. But I asked Saquon, I said, what was Hurts saying to you? And he said he was just telling me he's going to trust me in every single moment, point blank. And, Barkley stood there right after Hurts left that locker, and he was surrounded by, 30 people, and he answered every single question. And, we didn't see Davis at all in his locker. And listen, I mentioned something to Eagles PR yesterday about Jordan Davis and, can we get him to talk to us? So we'll see. Maybe we get him in today's locker room or maybe after the game on Sunday or Monday. I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping he talks today because he needs to stand up and answer questions about how this defense is playing. He's supposed to be one of the new leaders with Fletcher Cox gone, and we haven't seen him.
No doubt. I want to go back real quick to the A.J. Brown point that John brought up. He could be the most valuable non-quarterback in the NFL, and I think it brings up a bigger question that Eagle fans are going to have with themselves in terms of Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts with A.J. Brown is 28-8.
Yeah.
He's got a 95 passer rating. He throws 50 touchdowns to 23 interceptions and around 240 passing yards per game. That's 36 game sample size. Without A.J. Brown, it's a 33-game sample size. We're 12-20-1, 22 points per game, 145 passing yards per game, and an 84 passer rating. That's down with the Justin Fieldses of the world. I mean, that's a valuable player if I've ever heard one, that if your numbers elevate like that. And then I also think, it brings up a question about Jalen Hurts because a lot of the expectation with Jalen Hurts, whether he is or not, but when you get paid like that, and when your team gasses him up like they do, and I'm good with it, I'm fine with it, people are expecting him to be able to overcome those odds of losing A.J. Brown. He's showing that he needs everything around him to be perfect in order for him to play like an elite quarterback. And that's where, we criticize Brock Purdy. Oh, Brock Purdy has everybody around him. Well, so does Jalen Hurts. You lose one star receiver, and it's not like he's left with bottom barrel guys. Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. They traded the third rounder for Jahan Dotson, Saquon Barkley. Everything is still there for him. And he hasn't been able to rise the team above losing A.J. Brown really in any instance.
By the way, you're going to learn a lot about Brock Purdy because there's no Christian McCaffrey now, no Deebo Samuel. He's going to be out for a couple of weeks. I think George Kittle's hurt as well.
Well, I hope everybody holds the same energy for Jalen Hurts. That's my point. I mean, watch, Brock Purdy will look like trash without Deebo and Christian, and everyone will say, "I told you Brock Purdy sucked." But if Jalen Hurts stinks without A.J. Brown, everyone's just going to give an excuse or something.
Well, I don't think he stunk against, it's individual. Obviously, those numbers you cited include when he was first the starter with Doug Peterson.
Yeah, right. They go back the whole way.
That's a throwaway. Early in his first season as a starter, he was a growing player. Then they took off,
with AJ Brown.
No, they took off and made the playoffs before AJ. To be fair,
I think they were 9-7 that year, right?
Yeah, but they started 2-5, so they took
Mhm.
off and finished that season very strongly. But they weren't the same offensively. They're not. I just said it. They're not. They're a completely different team. Like we go to this game, I know Ed's got to get on the commute, his 6-hour commute to the NovaCare complex at Kracz on the X platform, si.com/NFL/Eagles. This Saints game, I go into this with AJ Brown. I feel that here's how I describe it. I feel that the Eagles can win a shootout against anybody. Without him, I don't think they have a chance to win a shootout against the New Orleans Saints. And I think that defines his impact on this team. They have to play a different way. That's on the coaching staff. They have to figure out a game plan to where they obviously maybe shorten the game, maybe rely on Saquon Barkley. And by the way, problem with that is the guy's on pace for how many touches, Ed?
Yeah, a lot.
442, according to our friend Martin Frank at Delaware Online. 442 touches, which would be almost as many as the 449 that DeMarco Murray had with the Cowboys.
Destroyed his career.
And that just wrecked him. He came to Philly, was terrible, had a decent year in Tennessee, but that was the end of his career. And he was only a year younger when he had that many touches. He was 26, Saquon's 27 now. I would wager that Saquon Barkley's physical fitness regimen is a lot better than DeMarco Murray, and that's no slight on Murray. I mean, Barkley's
a freak,
fitness regimen is second to none.
Yeah.
But you have to monitor it. But that said, this is how they have to win the game, I think, against the Saints, is they do have to shorten the game, John, like you said, is they have to control the football for 35 minutes, if not more, to keep that Saints offense off the field. And how do you do that? You do it with the run game, you do it with the short passing game, and then hopefully you can hit an explosive somewhere along the line. And that's what you're missing with A.J. Brown being out, is the Eagles only had one play over 20 yards against the Falcons, and that was a 23-yard scramble run by Hurts, who spiked the ball after and got the 5-yard penalty after that run. But the point is they only had the one play over 20-plus yards, and that's what you're missing with A.J. Brown. You're not getting the offenses wide open and spread out as you normally would with him in there. You're not paying that much respect to Britton Covey, no offense to Covey, or Jahan Dotson, who – I understand, he wasn't here all training camp, so you're kind of building him up, working slowly with him to get him more involved, but you're not showing the respect for those types of players when AJ's not out there. So
speaking of, by the way, on Britton Covey, who only had 6 catches on 6 targets, I think, for 23 yards, but he would have had 8 if Cam Jurgens wasn't doing sprints on the RPOs. He would have been 8 for 8. And it would have been for about 40 yards. Not great. But I was told by 2 different players in the locker room yesterday that Britton Covey in-house was the top-graded offensive player on the Eagles. Britton Covey.
Okay, well.
Deserves a bigger role. A bigger role.
Yeah, but I think it has to be in conjunction with A.J. Brown.
Oh, no,
you can't forget about Britton Covey.
I mean when AJ gets back. I still think he should be involved more than a certain someone that Howie gave up a 3rd-round pick for.
I agree 100%. And, that's the Sirianni philosophy is, hey, we're running the offense through Smith and Brown. And I think you need more than that. I mean, I think you need to be more diverse.
And the quarterback trusts him, I would say. The quarterback trusts him.
Oh, for sure. Jalen likes Britton Covey. He likes, how he practices. And I think you need to keep carving a role even when A.J. Brown comes back. But we'll see. I just think this game, unless you can control the ball 35-plus minutes, I don't think you're going to win.
Hey, let's get your prediction on the way out the door. You've tipped your hand a little bit on where you're going, but just your final predictions on this Football Friday for what the Eagles will do Sunday in New Orleans.
Yeah, listen, I just think it's a tough environment. The way both teams are playing doesn't give me a lot of hope that they're going to go in and find a way to win this game. But that would be just so like the NFL and the Eagles for them to go in there and stun the Saints. Maybe they come in, smelling themselves a little bit, New
I
Orleans,
agree.
and the
And
Eagles.
Derek Carr's inconsistent. He might.
He's very
You
inconsistent.
know what? He reminds me of this starting pitcher with the great stuff, but if he doesn't have his A stuff, he's not going to fight through it. He's not going to grind through it.
It's a good point.
And I think Fangio is really going to have to do, like he said 8 times yesterday, a better job, because Carr likes to get out on the outside the pocket on these boots and designed boots and throw the ball off of that. But if you can put some speed out there, maybe with Carter to kind of run him down when he does get outside. But Fangio is really going to have to think on his feet in this one, and he's going to have to make some good in-game adjustments after he sees what the Saints are doing. But again, I don't have a lot of confidence that the Eagles are going to find a way to win this game. So I don't know. I hate to say it and disappoint everybody out there, but I think the Saints win something like 38-21.
Oh, blowout.
It's just.
No, I'm with you. I was going to bring up, I think one of the issues with Nick Sirianni is there's a little bit of hubris. Maybe that changes with Kellen Moore. Like, I think his philosophy is, we're better than everybody else. And for a long time, that was true for that big stretch. And they were like, they didn't worry about anything. They didn't worry about shortening games, or you got to play differently. When this team's better than you, they're more gifted. They're at home in a difficult environment. You got to play a different way.
Yeah.
And I don't think he likes that. I don't think he likes to think that way.
Yeah, it's just a tough, like when they went down there in 2018 during the regular season. That was the last time they were there in the regular season. They got smoked 48-7. Carson Wentz had 3 interceptions. I'm not saying it's going to be
Chandon Sullivan, Devontae Ballsby, and who was the third one?
Trayvon LeBlanc was
Strap. Eagles fans still think Strap can play.
Yeah, but I'm not saying it's going to be like that. And then listen, to the Eagles' credit, Nick Foles took over that team after Wentz got hurt. They went down there in the playoffs and probably should have won if Alshon Jeffrey can catch the pass down inside the 30-yard line with about 2 minutes to go, instead of having it go through his hands right into Marshawn Lattimore's hands for a game-ending interception. The Eagles might have won. They might have gone back to the NFC title game. So listen, I think that this is a tough matchup now. I wish this game was a little later in the season, when the Eagles defense has had a little bit more time to gel. And the offense is clicking a little better under this first-year coordinator with Kellen Moore. But right now, the way it is, week 3, I just think it's too big of an ask for the Eagles to go down there and win this game. I'm not saying that at 1 and 2, everybody's
and without A.J. Brown. A.J.'s not going to – I don't know if they're going to rule him out today, but he's not playing.
We haven't even seen him in the locker room. But again, and at 1 and 2, the sky's going to be falling. It already is at 1 and 1, but – I say this team requires some patience for the fan base. Okay, I think this is a team that's going to get better as the season goes along on both sides of the football.
They better, Ed Kracz.
Well, I
hope you're right.
That's my belief. That's what I believe is, and I said that at the start of the year, that this team could get off to a slow start, and we're seeing it. The schedule's not easy. I mean, we never thought the Saints would be 2-0, but the schedule's tougher. You only play your next home game is October 11th, and then you're not home again until November 3rd. So you got to go on the road into some tough places and find a way to win. And this team, the way it's young on defense, still learning on offense with Kellen Moore, it's tough. It's tough to do for this team. But I think as the season goes on, again, you're going to have to be patient. I know that's not the Eagles fans' strength, but you have to be patient, because I think they will get better as the season goes on. But this is a tough game for them.
And you would think after last year that would be more important, because what did 10-1 get you?
Nothing.
You got to play. Yeah. You got to play better at the end of the year,
right?
Than at the beginning of the year.
That's exactly right. So
that's
if you're
what
2
the
and
Chiefs
3,
have done 2 consecutive years.
Hopefully you're 2 and 2 going into the bye. You find a way to win in Tampa next week, and again, not easy, but you hope you're 2 and 2 going into the bye, and then you see what you got coming out.
Yeah.
Only way to do that is if your best players start playing better football. Let's hope they do.
Right.
Ed, thanks for joining the show today, man. Great stuff as always from you. We'll read all your work at si.com/NFL/Eagles, and follow Ed on Twitter at KratzE, one of the best in the business. Ed, thanks for joining today, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Andrew. See you, John.
See you,
thanks,
John.
Ed.
There's Ed Kracz joining us on Birds 365. Great stuff from Ed. I love talking to Ed. I think he does bring a great voice to a great opinion and a great thought process to the conversation. But